This story is based on a real incident. It was a summer afternoon in London, the kind where the sky seems endlessly blue and the hum of the city vibrates with life. But beneath the seemingly ordinary facade, something darker was unfolding, something that no one could have predicted, not even the victim herself. Suzy Lamplugh, a 25-year-old estate agent, was about to become the center of one of the most chilling mysteries to ever haunt the streets of Fulham. It was July 28, 1986, a day that would start like any other, but would soon spiral into a nightmare, never to be forgotten. The morning was warm, the city just beginning to stir as Suzy left her flat. A stockbroker boyfriend, a stable job, a future brimming with possibility. She was a woman who seemed to have it all. Little did anyone know that day would mark the end of her story. Suzy was last seen around 12:50 p.m., just outside a house on Shorrolds Road, Fulham. It was there that she was supposed to meet a client, someone who was only known to her by the name Mr. Kipper. Her appointment was straightforward. She was an estate agent, after all, accustomed to meeting strange men in the name of business. But this meeting would be anything but normal. It would be the meeting that sealed her fate. Witnesses reported seeing Suzy waiting outside the property at 12:50 p.m., standing near the entrance to 37 Shorrolds Road. The house, a modest, unremarkable place in a quiet neighborhood, would become ground zero for what would quickly spiral into a horrifying disappearance. One neighbor recalled seeing her speak to a man at the gate, but their conversation appeared brief, even tense. Then, just moments later, a second witness described hearing the sound of someone exiting the house. The man she had been speaking with, a well-dressed figure in a dark charcoal suit, appeared to be with her. He was described as a public schoolboy type, someone who stood out with his polished appearance. Then, something strange happened. Another witness reported seeing the man and Suzy leave the property, only to stop for a brief moment, looking back at the house as though something was amiss. Was there an argument? Or was it simply a strange moment before they got into a car? No one knew for sure. The details were fuzzy, and the mystery of the moment only deepened. It wasn't long before suspicion crept in. As the day wore on, Suzy's colleagues grew concerned. She had an appointment that afternoon, and the clock was ticking. By 3:30 p.m., they knew something was wrong. She had not returned to the office, nor had she called to check in. By 5:30 p.m., her colleagues were frantic, fearing something was terribly wrong. Her car was still missing, and no one had heard from her since she left for the appointment. At 10 p.m., the first real breakthrough came, though it wasn't one anyone could have hoped for. Suzy's white Ford Fiesta was found abandoned on Stevenage Road, about a mile from the property she had visited earlier. The car was poorly parked, as though in a hurry. The handbrake wasn't engaged, the keys were gone, and the driver's door was wide open, as if she had been interrupted mid-task. Most unsettling of all, Suzy's purse was inside the car, but neither her keys nor the keys to the property were found. Something was terribly off. The seat was pushed far back, further than Suzy would have placed it. Clearly, someone else had driven the car. But where had Suzy gone? Why hadn't she returned? The police immediately launched an investigation, but for days there were no leads, no body, no evidence. Only whispers of a mysterious man named Mr. Kipper, who seemed to have disappeared just as quickly as Suzy had. At first, investigators had nothing to go on except speculation. Was this a case of an unfortunate accident? Or was it something darker, more sinister? But it wasn't long before the police began to realize that there was something disturbingly wrong with the story. They began to examine the circumstances surrounding the mysterious man known only as Mr. Kipper. Could he be the key to unraveling the mystery? The investigation soon pointed to one suspect, John Cannon. John Cannon was a man with a dark history. A convicted rapist and murderer, Cannon had been released from prison just 3 days before Suzy vanished. He was known to have a troubling past, violent, manipulative, and with a track record of abusing women. What made the situation even more chilling was that Cannon had been staying in a hostel near Wormwood Scrubs prison, just miles from where Suzy had disappeared. Cannon had a history of stalking women. In the months leading up to Suzy's disappearance, he had frequented several wine bars in Fulham, the same area where Suzy worked. He had been seen talking to several women in these bars. One of them, a blonde woman named Susu, who some believed could have been Suzy herself. But could he really be the man who had taken Suzy that day? As investigators dug deeper into Cannon's life, they discovered more troubling details. He had a history of violence, particularly towards women. In 1987, just a year after Suzy vanished, he kidnapped and murdered Shirley Banks, a woman he had been stalking. There were other women too, women who had been attacked, abused, and left broken by a man whose sinister presence seemed to follow them wherever they went. Cannon's twisted past seemed to tie him directly to Suzy's case. Police found a car that he had once owned, a black left-hand drive BMW, matching the description of a car seen near Shorrolds Road on the day of her disappearance. Cannon's behavior only deepened the suspicion. He had been released from prison on the same day Suzy vanished. He had frequented the same wine bars as her. The coincidences piled up, but still, the police had no concrete evidence to charge him with her disappearance. Then came the chilling revelation. Cannon had been known to frequent properties that were for sale, showing an unnatural interest in women who worked as estate agents. Suzy, young and beautiful, fit the exact profile of the women Cannon was drawn to, women with bright futures, young and vibrant, working in real estate where they were vulnerable to men like him. One of the most disturbing leads came from Cannon's former girlfriend. She claimed that he had confessed to knowing where Suzy's body was buried, even telling her that it was in a place called Norton Barracks. The police wasted no time following up, searching the area, but they found nothing. Yet, the mystery only deepened. Cannon's mind seemed to be playing games with the investigators, revealing just enough to maintain the illusion of innocence, all the while tightening the noose around his own neck. The days turned into weeks, then into months, and eventually, years. The investigation dragged on, each year further obscuring the truth. The public was left in the dark. Suzy's family, especially her parents, were left to navigate a living nightmare, unsure whether their daughter was dead or alive. And yet, every year, on the anniversary of her disappearance, they held out hope, hoping against hope that somehow the truth would emerge. But it never did. In 1993, 7 years after Suzy's disappearance, the unimaginable happened. She was declared legally dead. Her family was left to mourn, but there was no body, no closure, only the painful memory of a daughter lost to the world. Despite the legal declaration, the mystery continued. Investigators refused to give up. Cannon remained the prime suspect, but every time they seemed close to a breakthrough, they were thwarted by the lack of solid evidence. But the search never stopped. Over the years, the police conducted numerous searches, including a dramatic dig at Cannon's mother's house, where they thought Suzy's body might be buried. The search turned up nothing. Each lead, each new discovery, was nothing more than another dead end. The years wore on, and the investigation grew colder, though the public's fascination never waned. The question lingered: what had happened to Suzy Lamplugh? In 2000, the case was reopened, and for a brief moment, it seemed like the truth was within reach. Investigators gathered new evidence, including DNA samples that hinted at Cannon's involvement. They even located a car he had once owned, one that had been connected to Suzy's disappearance. But even with all this evidence, there was still not enough to charge Cannon with her murder. Cannon's refusal to speak only deepened the mystery. He was a man who controlled everything around him, refusing to reveal the truth, even as the walls of suspicion closed in. In 2007, Cannon was linked to other crimes, including the murder of another woman. Yet still, the mystery of Suzy Lamplugh remained unsolved, her body never found. Cannon's life spiraled further into darkness. He continued to taunt police, knowing that the one thing they could never take from him was the power to control the truth. And then, in 2024, Cannon died in prison. The case, which had haunted investigators and captivated the public for decades, ended with his death. But the question remained, where was Suzy? Her story did not end with Cannon's death. It lived on in the memory of those who knew her, in the hearts of her family who still held onto the hope that one day the truth would be revealed. But as the years passed, the story of Suzy Lamplugh became a shadow, a cold case that would never truly be solved. The vanishing of Suzy Lamplugh is a chilling reminder that some mysteries are never meant to be solved. Some stories will forever remain in the dark, hidden away by the very people who should have revealed the truth. And in the silence that follows, her memory endures, forever lost, forever haunting. If you found this story haunting and thought-provoking, make sure to subscribe to Open Files of True Horror, hit the notification bell, and share with others who need to hear it.